Now. All right. So our freedom builders, thank you for joining us today. I'm excited. We have our wonderful partner, Mr. Kyle Whissel. He's going to give us a rundown on open houses today. And, people on the West Coast, agents on the West Coast are masters at open houses because they do them way more than we do them. So I am so excited for Kyle to deliver his open house strategies today. But before we get into that, I have a ton of you that keep reaching out to me about the market, the shift, the this, the that. Kyle and Dan did an amazing, hopefully you guys were all on there. Last week they did that shift in our fast forward movement group. We need to just rename this to Freedom Forward or something so we don't have to keep saying all these names, right? In our fast forward movement group. So that was very powerful. And I thought people had great feedback, Kyle. If you're listening to me here, it was fantastic. But what I want to do is, before we get into this, a lot of you need to know that there is information that you can go find that's readily available. So for the newer people that don't know where to find it, I'm going to share my screen and show you guys where to go get some of this information. Because if you're at an open house and you don't know what you're talking about, your conversion is going to be really low. So I think it'll be really helpful to sort of have some of these pieces of data with you at the open house, and knowing where to find them is number one. And then we're going to talk about the numbers and what they mean. So hopefully you guys can see my screen, but I want you, maybe Alisane, you can put this in the chat box, trianglemls.com. So trianglemls.com, you're all going to go there. And you're going to click on this little tab that says Market Trends. When you click on the little tab that says Market Trends, you're going to scroll to the bottom. And this is information that we can geek out over for weeks. It's fantastic. It takes us all the way back to 2015, and it shows us what's happening in the market. So when you click on, let's say, for instance, I'm going to click on Wake County today. If I'm going on a listing appointment, or if I'm at an open house, I'm going to print out probably 22, 21, 20, all the way down to 18 or 15 and have that with me so I can show a buyer or a seller that the sky isn't falling, that we are still going to increase in value. So this one here is something I would have with me. It's our Wake County local market update year to date. And it'll show us, how many closed sales we have year to date. It'll show us our total average sale price, right? Which we're right around 532, which is crazy because in 2015, we were at 286. It'll show us our days on market, which in 2015, we were at 47 days on market. We're at 9. And then it shows us our month supply. Now, this means nothing to a buyer or a seller unless you can show them the differences, right? And so this is our 2018 report, and you guys can see here days on market 31, our month supply 2.4, which was a very normal market. So this is where you guys are going to be able to excel, have these documents. But I'm going to stop sharing right now and show you guys a little bit of the difference of what was hoping, in our market. Hold on, let me get the view here. There we go. So you can see side by side our 2020, hopefully you guys can see this, 2015, just to give you guys a quick example, and you can write this out and print it out, but 2015, we were at 286 for our average sale price. 2018, we were at 341. 2020, we're at 532. So obviously investing in real estate is wise, and it keeps going up. We had year to date, we sold 9,460 homes in 2015 from January to June. We sold 10,000 homes January to June in 2018. And here we're already June, we sold 7,800 homes. So we're about 2,300 homes short, but we're still selling a shit ton of properties, which is cool. Days on market, 47 days on market in 2015. And we only had a 2.5 month supply, guys. So this is what you're going to see that's going to change. 24 days on market in 2018, 9 days on market in 2020. So in the next year, you might see 9 days go to 18 days. You might see it go to 20 days. You might see it go to 24 days. That's what's going to change because our supply is still 0.8 for some of the new people on the call. We don't have enough homes on the little virtual shelves to sell people. So these were normal, very normal markets, and we still only had a 2.5 month supply of housing. So this is key when you guys are talking to people to understand that interest rates, yes, are going up. Kyle said last week, date the rate, marry the property. I thought that was great. I've heard it before and I forgot about it. Now we're going to all be using it. But I hope that helps you guys go and grab information that you need for the people that are new on the call. And Kyle, I'm going to turn it over to you. I put in the chat box that Kyle leads the #1 team in San Diego. I don't know, did Dan beat you guys yet? Or what's going on with that?
Yeah, I think I finally get to hand the torch over. So for the first time in his life, he can claim #1 finally.
He can finally. Well, he still is #1 in my eyes, Kyle. So #1 San Diego team in my eyes, 7 years in a row. You guys run a kick-butt team. How many units will you guys sell this year?
600-700.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And their average sale price is like what, 800,000?
Yeah, somewhere near there.
So they make a lot of money. He's a video influencer. If you haven't followed Kyle on YouTube, he does YouTube courses. He was my inspiration to start a YouTube channel, and we did. So he's fantastic on video, and he's a proud hubby, father, and he owns 2 pigs. I think that's pretty cool to know about him. So Kyle, the floor is yours, my friend.
Cool. Yeah, one of the things we'll hit on, just since you touched on the data there, the thing that I think a lot of people, especially consumers, misunderstand is leading indicators and lagging indicators. And this is something we're talking about on our team. And since you opened the floor for that, I'll definitely hit on it. Please. The thing that I think is so important for us as realtors right now is to not necessarily go into the data, but we need to know the data so that if somebody goes there, we're equipped to have that conversation. But the last thing you want to do right now is go into data and start talking about days on market and new listings and pendings and rates. Like, don't go there unless you need to, because we had one of our agents the other day was like, I had a client call me and he was so excited that he just got pre-approved, and I asked him what the rate was, and he was excited it was 7%. Okay, he's excited. Cool. Congrats. Let's go find you a house. The last thing you want to do is now be like, oh, well, rates this, rates that, market. Like, he doesn't care. He's pre-approved. He wants to go find a house. Go find him the damn house, right? So don't make things an issue that don't need to be. And the best example I could give you would be like, if you're going on a listing appointment, the last thing you're going to do is go into a listing appointment and then ask the seller, hey, are you curious about what commission I charge? Like, you would never do that, right? You're not going to make commission an issue. If they bring it up, you got to be equipped to handle that conversation, but you're not going to make an issue out of something that doesn't need to be. So I want to make sure I give that context before I can dive into some of this. So with that said, you need to focus on leading indicators versus lagging indicators. The media is going to consistently report lagging indicators. So Tina, the data that you guys have access to, what month is that? Is that May closings?
That was January to June year to date for 2015.
But it stops at the end of May.
That's right.
And so the thing is, the media, like that data, and you guys didn't get that data probably until a week ago, I would guess. And that data is going to report May closings. Well, let's think about if something closed in May, it probably went pending in either April or potentially even March. And that data just got released to us as realtors. The media is not on top of stuff. They're always behind. So best case, the media takes that data and reports on it now, possibly not reporting on that data until one more week from now. And now we're into July. So the media is reporting in June and July what happened in March and April, if you're focusing on lagging indicators. And lagging indicators are anything that has to do with closed sales. So the number of homes sold, the sale price to list price ratio, the whatever other number, median sales price, all that stuff is super outdated data. Like our most recent data, sale price to list price ratio is like 105%. Well, I know damn well homes aren't selling for 5% above list price today, but that's what they were selling for in March and April. So the media is going to report a lot of that lagging indication data. You got to focus on the leading indication data. So like there in Wake County, if you pay attention to it, the number of new listings was up, I think it was 10%, and the number of pending listings was down 13.5. That's data from May. because you can report, it's the day on June 1st, we can report how many new homes were listed in May. On June 1st, we can report how many homes went pending in May. That's much more accurate data. That's data that's 2 months ahead of the curve. And that's much more of a leading indicator of where the market's going versus all that sold data. So the things that we like to focus on is new listings, pending listings, and supply of homes for sale. Like those are the three things that we try to key in on, because those are all literally what's happened in the last 30 days, not what happened 2, 3, 4 months ago. So pay attention to that data. And yours is very similar to ours, right? You're seeing that there's, more homes coming on the market, less homes going off the market, supply is increasing. And then what will happen is media will start to latch on to the headlines, whatever's going to get clicks. And so some of the things that they'll latch on to is like you guys, I think it said you went from 0.5 months of inventory to 0.8 months of inventory. So there's a few different ways to report that data. The media is not going to talk about the fact that homes are still selling in 6 days. Like they're going to completely neglect that information. What they're going to do is they're going to report that the supply of homes is increased over 50%. Like that's what they're going to report, right? 50 from 5% to 8 or 0.5 to 8, that's over a 50% increase. That's a really newsworthy headline that they'll end up reporting on. But that's not like, you got to have some context on that. Like you're still less than a month of inventory. I know in San Diego, a balanced market is like 4 to 6 months of inventory. And we're hovering around 1 month of inventory right now. So we're still a quarter of what we would have in a balanced market. The media is not going to talk about what's normal. They're just going to talk about this big increase because that's going to get clicks. And so our job is to be able to know what the media is reporting and have the data and the information to counteract what the media is reporting. The other thing they're going to report is like new listings are up. What I think it was 10%. New listings are up 10%. Cool. Well, let's look at a historical chart. Every single year from January to February to March to April to May to June, new listings increase every single year. Like this is normal. There are things that are seasonal. You're always going to have more listings hitting the market in May, in June. Like that's a very normal thing across the country. I don't care if you guys are on the East Coast, the West Coast, or in Texas or in Montana. Like that's very normal that you have more homes hitting the market in the spring and the summer. But the media is not going to report that. They're just going to take any headline they can get that's negative and they're going to report on it. And so our job is to know the data so that when somebody goes there, we can have that educated conversation with them. So I just wanted to share that because consumers screw this stuff up all the time and the media just makes things worse. So the better job we do of understanding these things, the better job we're going to do of earning business. Because if you look at any sheet or any survey that's ever been done, 2 out of the 3 top things that somebody wants out of an agent is they want somebody who's knowledgeable and trustworthy. Well, we can prove that we're knowledgeable because we know this data. And logically, when you know the data, you become more trustworthy. But when somebody asks you a question about some of this data and you don't know the answer, then you're showing them you're not knowledgeable. And if you're not knowledgeable, how can you trust somebody? The two go hand in hand. They might as well be the same thing, but they end up being 2 separate things, even though they in reality are tied directly together. So the more knowledge you have in understanding this stuff, the better off you're going to be, the better you're going to be able to handle those objections and be able to have more confident conversations, which make you knowledgeable and earn the trust. So I wanted to share that. I think it's important. I have a degree in econ, so I study all this stuff and geek out on it. And so it's always been my number one way to sell my entire career. Like I'm not the best salesperson, don't have the best scripts, I'm not the smoothest talker, but I know the numbers and the data better than anybody. And that helps me beat my competition 9 times out of 10. So even if you're new, like especially those of you that are newer, this is another way you can smoke your competition, because super busy realtors that are really experienced and don't have a lot of time, they're not paying attention to this data. And so somebody asks them a question like, oh yeah, market's fine, it's all good. No, like, well, here, let me actually show you the data, and you can dive in and know the data, and you can talk about what's actually happening. And if you know each individual sale in a neighborhood too, like if you want to focus on a particular neighborhood, if you want to focus on Raleigh or wherever, and you know like that subdivision, every single home that sold, what it was listed at, how long did it take to sell, did it have a price reduction, how many price reductions, did it fall out of escrow? Like, do you know all that data? You're going to smoke your competition, because I know I don't know that personally. Like I have There's agents who can go into a listing appointment. Not only do they know everything that's sold, but they've driven by every property that's sold, and they've walked through every property that they can. And you could beat Tina on a listing appointment. If you know that data better than she does, and you know the comps better than she does, you will smoke her, because when you have that firsthand knowledge and that those data points and all of that, you can beat the number one agent in town. So never be afraid. I saw Marty's on here too. Like, you want to go up against Marty or Tina, if you want to beat them, know your data better than they do. That's an advantage that you have. They don't have the time to dig into that, and you do. So what you might see as a weakness of being newer, turn that into a strength.
Kyle, I got my spreadsheet right here.
Yeah, but you didn't put that together.
Yes, I did. I totally put it together. I like to geek out on numbers. And the reason we brought it up is one of our Freedom Builders, 2 days before closing, one of his buyers called him and said, I'm going to back out of the deal. I'm going to wait. The market's crashing. And I was like, what? Like, this is crazy. So, yeah. And Kyle is the master at analyzing the data. I'm not that good, but I like to have a little bit of an overview. So that's my spreadsheet, but he's right. You got to know how to talk about it when it's brought up, not just beat them over the head with it, because they don't care half the time. So
for sure. And I saw there was a question from Emma. What is supply? So what supply is you look at the number of homes that are selling per month, and you look at how many homes are for sale. So let's say there are 5 homes selling per month, and there's 10 homes currently for sale. What we want to look at is how long would it take to sell out of homes based on the number of homes available and how many homes are selling per month. So if there's 10 homes for sale and we're selling 5 homes per month, that means we have 2 months of supply. That means we would run out of homes within 2 months if nothing else came on the market. So that's the simple way to look at supply, is how long would it take us to run out of homes for sale based on how many homes are selling per month.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps.
Yes. Thank you, Kyle. I knew it was a marker of inventory, but I wasn't quite sure how it all broke down. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, let's dive into the open house stuff. I'm a huge fan of open houses. It's always been one of our top 3 lead sources on our team since my team has started. And I love open houses. One, the open house itself is really cool, but I love all of the opportunities that get created because of the open house, because you got to look at an open house as more than just sitting at a house on a Saturday for 3 or 4 hours. If like that's your interpretation of an open house, like you need to shift your brain, because an open house is way more than just the actual open house itself. It gives you an excuse to do so many amazing things. And so what I want to share with you, we took all the things we do and we packaged it up, which is something we do in our business a lot, and gave it a name. And so we looked at, when we launch a property on a market, what are the things that we do? And Dan has a program, he calls it the 5-day blitz. We have something we call the 7-day listing launch. And all we did there was took the things that we do every time we launch a property and just gave it a name. And it's amazing what happens when you take the things you're already doing. You don't have to do anything different than what you're already doing. All you have to do is package it up and give it a name. And now it becomes something. And when people ask you, like, what's your USP? What makes you different? And you could say, oh, well, we actually have our patented 5-day blitz or our 7-day listing launch. Like, when you can say that, when you get asked that question, that gives you a huge leg up on the competition, even though your 5-day blitz is the exact same thing that the other agent does. The other agent just didn't give it a name. So when you can take things and give them a name, it becomes really powerful. And we do the same thing when working with buyers. We package stuff up, like we'll get you a free home warranty. We will let you cancel anytime. If you don't love your home and you need to move in the first year, we'll sell it for free. And we get you a free appraisal that we get our lender to pay for. We have a moving truck. We just took all these things that we were already doing and we just called it our VIP buyer program. It's not anything different than what we had been doing in the years prior. We just packaged it up, gave it a name, and now it's become something. Now it becomes a USP that nobody else has. And so I'll share with you our 7-day listing launch. And just understand, when I share this with you, maybe you don't do all 7 of these things. Maybe you have more time and don't have enough money. So maybe you can't do some of the things in here, or maybe you're on the flip side of it. Maybe you have the money and you don't have the time. So pick and choose the things that you're going to do off this list with an understanding you don't have to do all of them. So just pick what works for you. So our 7-day listing launch works like this. And the way we present this to clients is that when we launch a property onto the market, we launch a property on the market the same way Hollywood launches a movie onto the market. Hollywood didn't decide a few Fridays ago, like, oh, this looks like a good Friday to drop the new Top Gun movie. Like, they promoted that movie. That one obviously got delayed multiple times, but they promoted that movie, months in advance before they ever released that movie. Why don't we do the same thing when we launch our property? We should do the same thing. And so we tell our clients that we launch our properties onto the market just like Hollywood launches a movie onto the market. And here's how we do it. Like, that's our talk track for it. And so Monday, what we do is we mail invitations to everybody in the neighborhood. These invitations, I basically took a wedding invitation that I had got and sent it over to a designer. I was like, take this, but like make it an invitation to an open house. And so we made these really fancy, and Tina, I'll send you a copy of one so you can share with everybody. Very high class, really fancy invitation, like thick cardstock paper. We use colored envelopes, which helps a lot. And we vary the color of the envelopes as well. Because if you send stuff in like a number 10 white envelope, it's not going to get open. It's going to be assumed junk. So we use unique size envelopes, different color envelopes. We do handwritten fonts, not real handwriting, but handwritten fonts on them, which helps get them opened. And then it's an actual invitation, not a postcard, like a nice invitation, like a wedding invitation. And I can guarantee you 99.9% of people on earth have never received a formal open house invitation like that. It's super, super, super rare. Most people have not received that. So when they get that, it stands out because now they see like, oh, I've never received anything like this. And that's huge. That's earning you brownie points with your next potential seller because you're showing them a type of marketing that they've never seen before, which is giving you an opportunity to earn that business because now you're doing something different than, maybe you're going against Tina in her farm and Tina's been sending the same postcard 5,000 times. But Tina hasn't sent an open house invitation like this before. And now you send this and they're like, oh, whoa, this is nice. I've never gotten this from Tina before. And it stands out. And so it's a really nice way to make a good impression on everybody who lives in the neighborhood. As far as how many people do we send those to? If it's in a subdivision, we're going to hit everybody within that subdivision. If it's not in a subdivision, depending on the price point, we're usually going to hit 250 to 500 homes around the listing. Our cost on these things, we've really like classed them up a lot. So I think we're $1.30, $1.50 a piece. So for sure, they're more expensive than a postcard, but the added impact is substantial. And it's to the point where when people get these invitations, like I've had so many people show up to the open house with the invitation in hand. Like they held on to it. They think like they need it for like admission to the open house. It's crazy. So those invitations go out on a Monday, and then those typically are arriving within 2 to 3 days. So they're arriving on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, typically is when they'll arrive. On Tuesday, we start running social ads. And so it's a little bit tricky with Facebook right now on targeting. If you're running your ads directly through Facebook, because they want you to do, I don't know if it's like a 10 or 15 mile radius that they require now. It is what it is. There's some workarounds if you want to like really geek out on how to like work around the Facebook limitations. Shoot me a DM and I'll explain it to you, but it's super complicated and involves video, and you got to be working at a high level to understand it. So I don't want to go too deep on that right now, but we'll go there if we need to later. So now we start running social ads on Tuesday. We typically activate all of our listings on Wednesday, and we're very strategic about activating them on Wednesday. The data from Redfin, which I think Redfin has some of the most accurate data that there is, because they're reporting data in real time, and they're one of the most trafficked apps and websites that exist in our industry. Redfin has tracked the data, and they've determined that Thursday and Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. are the busiest traffic times on their website. A lot of people have this twisted and think that like Saturday and Sunday is going to be the busiest traffic on these real estate platforms, but it's the complete opposite of what you would think. People are on real estate websites while they're at work. That's just what it is. In particular, Thursday and Friday, because what they're doing on Thursday and Friday is they're looking for what homes they want to go see on the weekend. So they go see homes Saturday and Sunday. They pick the homes they want to go see on Friday and Saturday, or on Thursday and Friday. So if we know that Thursday and Friday are the two busiest search days of the week, we need to get our properties as high up on the list as possible, the search results as possible on these platforms. Well, we know the algorithms, one of the largest factors in all of the algorithms, whether it be Redfin, Realtor, Zillow, or any other website out there, is days on market. So the last thing I want to do is activate a listing on a Monday, because by the time Thursday rolls around, now I'm at 3 days on the market, I'm going to be pushed down the list. So we're very strategic about going live on a Wednesday. Obviously, the big sites syndicate pretty quickly, usually within an hour, but a lot of realtor websites don't syndicate until overnight. So we go live on Wednesday so that we're on all of the websites that exist on Thursday at the top of the results, because we have the lowest days on market. So it strategically goes live. And then that, obviously, when that goes live, now that's going to show up in all the buyers who have saved searches all around your market. They're all going to wake up Thursday morning and they're going to have an email in their account letting them know about this new property that just hit the market. So people are getting something in their mailbox, they're seeing it in their social feed, and then they're seeing it pop up on their saved search, which everybody has saved searches. Just letting you know now, every person who owns a home has a saved search on some website. They just do. Everybody wants to keep tabs on what's happening in their market. They all have a saved search. So you want to make sure that you're getting into their inbox. Thursday, what we like to do is now we go and we door knock the neighborhood. And door knocking is something that I'm a huge fan of, because most people are terrified to do it. And anytime people are terrified to do something, that's just opportunity for you to go and do it. Say hi. You say hi? All right.
Bye. Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye, Jackie.
So sweet.
Bye.
Yeah, just have them go to the office. Okay. So Thursday, door knocking. And again, I love it because everybody is freaked out. Nobody will do it. And most people, they won't do it because they think they're going to open the door and they maybe read, what was it, Hansel and Gretel, and they're going to get like thrown in the oven or something. Like, people are so terrified of it. And it's a unfounded fear that they all have. So it's so much opportunity for you to go out there and door knock. And I don't know of anybody who's been thrown in an oven or anybody who's been eaten or anything while door knocking. So don't be afraid of it. See that it's an opportunity and go after it and do what other people won't do. Because if you want to have what other people don't have, you have to do what other people won't do. And it's a really good opportunity for you. And the cool thing by doing this on Thursday is they already got something in their mailbox. They've seen it in their social feed, and now they got an alert from Zillow, Realtor, Truly, whatever they're searching on. So now when you're going and you're doing that door knock, it's a little bit easier for you. It's not as hard, because now you're like, oh, hey, it's Kyle. I wanted to follow up and make sure you got the invitation for, and we usually do food and drinks at our open houses. You got to figure out what your rules are out there. I don't know your rules, but our rules here in California, as long as it's a private event, we can serve alcohol. If it's a public event, can't serve alcohol. But guess what? We send invitations. I've actually had the alcohol and beverage control, like the government entity, somebody snitched on us that we had alcohol at our open house. And we just sent them. We were like, here's our guest list. Here's the invitations that we sent out. And they're like, oh, okay. And they totally left us alone. So as long as it's a private event, you're good to go in California. You got to figure out what those rules are in your guys' market. So we do the door knocking. And now here's where a lot of people screw things up. When you're door knocking, the point of door knocking is not to knock to get somebody to come to the open house. I don't care if they come to the open house. The door knocking is so that I can get into a conversation with them. And the open house is the excuse to open that conversation. I don't care if they show up to the open house. I've seen agents do this before where they show up, they knock on the door and like, hey, it's Kyle. I wanted to invite you to our wine and cheese open house around the corner. You probably saw our sign on 123 Main Street. It's going to be open Friday 5 to 7. They're like, okay, cool, we'll be there. All right, we'll see you. Bye.
Alrighty.
Oh, Kyle, you're breaking up on us. Hold on. Can you hear me? We lost you at bye. Are we losing him? Is it just me?
No, he's frozen.
He's frozen.
We can't
Okay.
hear you.
I think he might be back. Let's see.
Sorry, my
He's
wife
back.
got in the car and my wife got in the car and I think it sent the Bluetooth to the car.
Oh, that might have. That might have. Yeah.
Yeah.
We lost you at bye.
So I'm just going to reiterate, and maybe I'm going to say this again, so I don't know where I cut off. But when you get into that conversation at the door, the whole point is to be in conversation with people, not to get them to go to the open house. So when you go to the door and you tell them about your open house, you're going to have wine and cheese, whatever it is that you're doing, and you let them know it's Friday 5 to 7 or whatever time you're doing it, that's not the end of the conversation. Like the point of the door knock wasn't to tell them about your open house for them to hopefully show up on Friday at 5 o'clock. Like, I don't care if they show up Friday at 5 o'clock because I'm already in conversation with them. Why do I do the open house? I want to get in conversation with people when they're at the open house. But if I'm already in conversation with them at the doorstep, let's have that conversation now. I'm not going to push the conversation to later. Hopefully you show up to the open house. I want to have that conversation right then and there. So, and I know, Tina, you're a Mike Ferry person, and a lot of you guys on here are Mike Ferry trained. Now you start rolling in the conversation. Who do you know who would like to move into the neighborhood? I found a lot of times neighbors want to pick their neighbors. Who do you know who's looking to move into the neighborhood? Oh, I don't know of anybody. Oh, great. Well, out of curiosity, how long have you lived in the neighborhood? If you ever made a move out of the neighborhood, where would you go? Oh, great. What would take you there? Like, it's all a Mike Ferry script. The whole point is just to get into that conversation, not to invite them to the open house. The invite to the open house is just the way to get into the conversation. So we do that on Thursday. Friday, which we usually in the summertime, we do our open houses, our launch open houses on a Friday night. I found that doing them on a Friday, we basically go until sunset. So right now we can go like 6 to 8. And then as the sun starts to set earlier, we'll go 5 to 7, and then we'll go 4 to 6. And then once the sun starts, the time changes and the sun sets at 5, we flip and do them on a Saturday morning. So Friday, now we circle prospect the neighborhood, because now at this point, they got something in the mailbox. They seen it in their social feed. They got an alert from whatever websites they're signed up for. And we went and door knocked. And if they weren't home, I'm leaving something. I'm not just door knocking and walking away. I'm leaving an invitation at the door, which is effectively a flyer. So I'm leaving that at the door on Thursday. So now when I circle prospect on Friday, now I'm just following up on all the things, because if by Friday they don't know about this open house, that's kind of weird, right? With all the things that I've done. So now I'm just following up on Friday. Hey, Tina, I want to follow up. Make sure you got the invitation. We're having a wine and cheese event tonight at 5 around the corner from you, right? And that's, now we're having the same exact conversation we'd have at the door. We're just doing it over the phone. But it's very strategic about having the phone call after all those things have already happened, because then it's like priming the pump. You've already kind of warmed them up to this. It's not coming completely out of the blue. We're like, who's this? What are you talking about? What's going on? Like, at this point, they know about this open house. Like, there's no hiding it, right? Everybody knows, which is exactly what our goal is. So now we're circle prospecting, same thing. I'm using the open house as an excuse to get into the conversation. I don't care if they come to the open house if I get into the conversation. So now we're going to have that same conversation. Just Google the Mike Ferry just listed script. Like, that's effectively the script that you're using on these. So you're going to do the circle dials, then we do the open house. When you guys do open houses, like, you got to understand, you're going to be at this house for 2, 3, 4 hours, however long you do your open houses. You got to go all in on this. Like, if I'm going to sit somewhere for 3 hours on a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon, like, I'm not going to half-ass this. Like, I'm going all out. So we're typically doing, depending on the house, 25 signs at a bare minimum. We've done as much as 100 signs for a single open house. So you got to go all in on this. Like, don't half-ass this. Don't just show up 15 minutes before the open house, put a sign in front and hope people are going to show up. I think you're completely missing the boat if you do that. You really want to go all out. And we're strategic to where we'll go into Google Maps in advance of the open house and use Street View. And we'll look at, like, here's the map. What are the key intersections? We typically try to pick 2 key intersections to target. And so we'll pick, what are the 2 key intersections I need to hit to drive people to this? We'll Google Street View and be like, okay, I can put an A-frame on this corner. I could put a stake on that corner. I could put an A-frame and another A-frame. Okay. And I'm literally taking my inventory of how many stakes do I have? How many A-frames do I have? And we're planning it out. Like, we're completely planning out exactly where our signs are going to go. Every single intersection, we're doing a minimum of 2 signs, ideally 4 signs, because one good gust of wind or one little punk kid turns your one single sign at an intersection, or your one sign falls down, nobody's showing up to your open house. So 2 to 4 signs at a minimum. When we go really big on our bigger listings where we're doing 50 or 100 signs, I might have 15 signs at a single intersection. Like, my goal is when somebody shows up to the open house, for them to mention the signs. And they might be like, gosh, that was a little overboard, don't you think? I'm like, thank you. I take that as a compliment. If somebody complains about how many signs I put up, I thank them, because honestly, they're complimenting me at that point, because they know damn well that when they go to sell their house, do they want the agent who put one janky old sign from 1980 up with a chalkboard on it? Or do they want the agent who's got nice signs and they're literally all over the place? Like, they know what they want. They might say something in the moment, but I made an impression on them and I stood out from the crowd because of the number of signs that I put up. And if you don't do your own signs, which you're going to get to a point where hopefully you don't do your own signs anymore, I make maps for the people who put my signs out. So I literally print maps off of Google Maps and I put dots everywhere, either dots or X's. Here's where I expect my signs to be. And I've learned that I assume everybody on earth is stupid. And the faster you make this assumption, life gets a whole lot easier. Because if I don't tell people where to put the signs, they're going to put them where I don't want them. And then I'm going to be like, you're stupid. No, in reality, I'm stupid because I didn't tell them what to do. It's my fault. If I'm not happy with the sign placement, I am not happy with myself, not them. So I'm very adamant about, I will go in there and I'll spend 15 minutes picking exactly the intersections that I want the signs, because I know the neighborhood, right? I obviously driven to the house. I listed it. Like, I know the key intersections. I don't want to rely on somebody else to hopefully know that those are the key intersections. I want to do it. Tina, we're paying in our market 100 to 150 bucks. So yeah, go big with your signs, because if you're going to sit there for 3-4 hours, like, you want to get as many people through there as you possibly can. So if you got to spend an hour to put signs up, then do it. Like, it's 100% worth it. And understand, one of the hugest benefits of doing open houses is getting your name out there in the neighborhood. Maybe you're brand new and you've never listed a home before, but if you can go and do open houses consistently in a general area, whether you've actually listed a home or not, perception becomes a reality. And the perception is, holy crap, Kyle sells everything in this neighborhood, even though I've maybe never sold a home before. But they see my signs going up every single weekend, and they see 50 of my signs up every single weekend. They're going to be like, man, this guy's hustling out there. Like, this is the kind of guy that I want when I want to sell my house. There's an agent here in San Diego who, I swear, this guy doesn't even have a house to hold open, but he'll put signs up. I swear it's like he just makes a NASCAR track where people are just going to drive in circles. He picks like 4 key intersections, and every single one is a right-hand turn. And people see the signs, and the perception becomes that, oh my gosh, his name's Robert. Man, Robert, he's selling everything around here. If you followed Robert's signs, you drive in circles. But he has signs up every single freaking weekend, and the perception is Robert's selling homes. Again, there's Robert, there's Robert, there's Robert. They see those things over and over again, which, now keep all this in mind. They're seeing your invitations over and over and over again. They're seeing your social ads over and over and over again. They're seeing you at their door over and over again. They're getting the alerts over and over again, right? They're getting your call over and over again. That's called farming, guys. This is how I farm. This is how in my neighborhood, I moved out of it last year, but I still, even though I moved out, I still sell 90% of the homes in that neighborhood, because I'm the guy, right? I'm the person in that neighborhood. So at the open house, some of the strategies and stuff, we typically have a minimum of 2 people, ideally 3 people, whenever we're doing one of these open houses. The way that I do it on my team, I have a big team. If you don't have a big team, obviously adapt this accordingly. But I typically take one of the newest agents on the team and say, hey, who wants to shadow my open house? Who wants to shadow? Great. Here's what shadowing entails: putting my signs up, working the door, and taking my signs down. But you're going to get to shadow me, and you're going to just see how I've dominated this market and sell 90% of the homes. They're lined up for that opportunity, right? People, you guys should line up for the opportunity. If Tina's doing an open house, I would go put her signs up. I'll go put your signs up, Tina. If I'm out there, I'm putting your freaking signs up just so I can watch what you do. I want to learn from you. So one person's working the door, and then I like to have 2 people in the house. 2 agents in the house, and that's typically me and one other agent. And I make it very clear to the other agent, I don't want any of the buyers. All I want are the neighbors, which in our head, like, why the hell would you want the neighbors? Because neighbors are also called future sellers. So I don't even care about the buyers. And so the way that we handle it, when somebody comes to the door, the person who's working the door, they sign everybody in on an iPad. I'm not a paper person. I don't believe in paper. I like to have paper as a backup in case the iPad just magically shatters and combusts or something like that. But otherwise, I'm huge on having an iPad. I'm huge on using a program to sign people in that will integrate with my CRM. So if you guys are, obviously we're all with EXP. If you're using KV Core, use KV Core's open house app. We use Ylopo. We use the Ylopo open house app. If you're working with another system, use Spacio, SPAC.io. That'll integrate with like Boomtown and a bunch of other platforms. But I'm big on having on an iPad. When somebody comes in, if it's assuming it's a couple, we're in California, so we don't even say like husband and wife anymore. We've like literally had to train ourselves not to say that. So when a couple comes into the house, I'll typically hand the iPad to one of them. Hey, would you guys mind signing in for me? I'll hand the iPad to one of the people. And then while the other person is usually standing there, a lot of times they're standing there with kids, like, what do I do? Then we hand them one of the brochures. And Tina, remind me, I'll send you what we put out there, which we use Cloud CMA. And we're printing like 20, 30 page books at our open houses. Like, we're not handing out an MLS flyer. It is a 20 or 30 page book. It has information about the property, the local schools, the local restaurants, all kinds of stuff. Because now when they're at the door, whichever person's signing in, I'll hand the other person the book and I'll start a conversation with them, because otherwise they're just kind of standing there awkwardly while the other person's filling out the iPad. And that book really stands out because not many people have received that. Most people at their open houses are still giving out a freaking MLS sheet, which I've done this for 15 years and I still can't read an MLS sheet. So I can only imagine what that's like for an average consumer. Those things it's like playing a word search, like trying to read those. Where's the thing about the AC and the lot size, I think, is over here. And those things are awful. So we give them a really nice book from Cloud CMA that really helps us stand out. And then that person at the door is asking them, oh, do you live in the neighborhood? Like, that's their question, right? Do you live in the neighborhood? And they know based on that answer is going to determine which agent they're going to introduce that person to. So if the person says, oh, we live in the neighborhood, they're going to then take that person and hand them over to me and say, hey, Kyle, this is Bob and Sally. They live around the corner on Main Street. Just wanted to introduce you. And then I will take them. And that's a good indication to me that I'm talking to a neighbor that's a potential listing opportunity. The person says, no, we don't live in the neighborhood. They're going to go and introduce them to whichever agent is co-hosting with me. And that person knows that's a buyer opportunity. So it really helps us out to know who it is that we're talking to. Inside the open house, we typically have food. We typically have alcohol, and we always have music. I think music's really, really important when you're doing an open house. It's so awkward to walk into a house where it's like dead silent. It's just an awkward freaking experience. So we always like to have music playing. I found Ultimate Ears Bluetooth speakers are my favorite. I use the UE as their acronym, UE Boom speaker. I have 3 of them. I usually will put one downstairs, one upstairs, and one outside, and they'll all sync up together. And I found that the range on the UE speakers is better than any other one out there. So I can get those things, 30, 40 feet apart from each other. And that way there's music through the whole house and in the backyard. which creates a good experience for the person walking in. Because now they walk in, one, there's like a smiling face greeting them at the door. There's some music playing, there's some energy. And then we're offering them a drink as soon as they walk in the door. Oh, do you guys want to have a glass of wine? Would you guys like some cheese? Like, we're making it into something that becomes an experience. Plus they're getting this like book, which they've never gotten a book when they've showed up to an open house before, right? Traditionally, they've showed up to the open house, got a freaking MLS sheet, and somebody's like, all right, we'll go wander the house. Let me know what you think. And because they're there by themselves, and there might be 3 or 4 people in the house, and now they're not getting any like undivided attention, which is a bad experience. So they obviously, we like to walk them through the house. I'm a big fan of, let me give you the tour first so I can build the relationship, and then I'll let you go, because you don't want to stay on somebody the entire time. But let me walk you through the house first, then step back and let them have a little free time to explore, as opposed to the opposite, which is go take a look around. Let me know if you have questions. Like, that's what people do when you go into like Best Buy or something. Like, that's not what we do as true salespeople. We're not clerks. Like, it's not like, all right, well, go let me know if you want the house. If you do, I'll ring you up. Like, that's not how it works.
Kyle, I have a question, because I think some people are going to have this question. First, do you give them the booklet to take with them?
Yes.
So they get that. What do the books cost?
We print them in our office.
Okay. So, and then if you bring in 3 or 4 or 5 people at the same time, because we've had open houses where there's 30 people standing there, how do you walk each person through? Do you put them in groups, or is it just kind of,
No, you're just going, and then you just got to use your judgment, and you got to bounce when you need to. So one of the things that I teach our agents too is you never leave a good opportunity for a hopeful opportunity.
Yeah.
And same thing when you're making your phone calls too. Like, if you're making, let's say your call expires, you're circle dialing, and you're in a good conversation, but then somebody you had just called a few minutes ago calls back, like, I am not leaving my good conversation to like go answer this call that like hopefully could be a good conversation. I'm the same way at open houses. If I'm locked in with somebody and it's a good conversation, I'm just going to let the other person walk through.
Got it.
But if I'm talking to somebody and it's a bad conversation, this is a perfect opportunity for me to get out of that conversation and go grab that next opportunity.
Got it. Makes sense.
But I'm never leaving. If I'm locked in with somebody and we're vibing and I see that there's a good opportunity there, I'm not leaving that. I'll stay with them for 3 freaking hours. I'll stay. You could have 100 other people come through, but if I'm in with somebody that's going to turn into a listing, I'm not leaving that. So that's my personal opinion.
Love it.
And then as people are going through the house, we found when you have food and drink there, they feel a lot more comfortable. They stay longer, and they start to become like a thing. They start to become like this neighborhood party, to where when in the neighborhood that I farm, when I first did one of these, I had normal attendance, like 15, 20 people. When I do one now, having 150, 200 people is not uncommon. And it's a freaking party. Like, I have to kick people out of the house. I have to be like, hey guys, the open house ended at 7. It is now 7:45 and the owners are on their way home. Like, you got to get the hell out of here. Like, it's time to go. And then it's funny. People are like, hey, after party at my house. And I'm like, holy crap. I have an open house after party. This is cool. But that's how you know you're on to something, right? Because you're creating something that's more than just an open house. It's an experience. And what's cool, when you do these in the same neighborhood over and over, you start to get to know everybody. The same, you have your usual suspects that come, and then you always get 1 or 2 new people who ever moved into the neighborhood most recently. Advice for introverts: drink. That's what I do.
Kyle, have you had anybody spill wine, or, because somebody just asked that earlier.
Yep. Yeah, we did. And we just got the stuff professionally cleaned.
Yeah. I mean,
and sellers know, right? Like, most of my sellers have been to one of my open houses. They know what it's going to be. Like, there's an expectation of what it's going to be, and they've been to one. They've been the attendee. So when you're the host versus an attendee, like, you know what to expect, and we just do the right thing. And if I had to buy somebody a new couch, I would buy them a new couch. Like, that's a risk I'm totally willing to take.
And I want to just back this up and say this does work. We have a little neighborhood that has 3 streets, and it's all $1 million homes, and we've listed and sold 7 properties, and we always do the wedding invitation, just getting everybody involved and invite them earlier. We do a broker open house. We had like 80, 90 agents at the house, but earlier it's the sellers or whatever that can come by. But I like this. I like combining it. So it does work.
For sure.
Yeah.
If broker opens work out there, do that. do that on like whatever day. Obviously those are, you don't get to pick the day on those. So do those if they work. They don't work very well here. Only in like the ultra high end where it's hard to get access to the homes. But in our, median to like our middle to upper middle, there's the attendance that our broker opens is terrible. So just know your market. And if it makes sense there, do it. One of the other mistakes I see people make a lot of times at these open houses is the close. So what do you think? Like, so what do you think is not a close? Like that is some weak ass salesmanship. So what do you think is not a close? You got to ask, could you see your family living here? Who do you know, right? If they're a neighbor, who do you know that this could be a really good fit for? Like ask questions like that. Not so what do you think? Like that's the weakest freaking close on earth. It's something that literally bothers me. If that's how you close, you're not a salesperson. I'm just going to be the a-hole and I'm going to say it. If your close is, so what do you think? You need to find a new profession or you need to learn how to be a salesperson. That's not a close. So I'll always try to tie into, if we're looking to downsize, we're looking to upsize, like, oh, is this going to be the right amount of space for your growing family? Or is this going to be the right amount of space for you guys as empty nesters? Like things like that. Like I got to figure out what did I get from the conversation and how can I tie into it? Oh, could you see, if it's a pregnant wife, like, oh, could you see this being the perfect nursery for your baby? Like say things like that. Those are closes, right? Not to what do you think? All right. So open house happens, whatever, Friday night, Saturday. The thing that we love, again, by having people sign in on an iPad is they're automatically pushed into our CRM. And the very next day, I'm following up with every single person one by one, sending them a video. Tina, it's Kyle. Thank you so much for coming by the open house. I wanted to follow up, see if you had any additional feedback that we might be able to relay to the seller to help them sell the house. With you living in the neighborhood, the more that this home sells for, the more your home is worth. So if there's any feedback or any recommendations you have, let me know. Also, I wanted to check in now that you've seen the house. Who do you know who might be a good fit for this home that would love to be your neighbor? Let me know because we'd love an opportunity to take them through. We'll schedule a private showing and walk them through the home so we can see if it truly is a fit for them. That's what I'm doing, right? Like I'm saying that conversation with a seller or a buyer, I'm following up and seeing if they want to come back for a private showing. Or if this home's not a fit, I want to make it very clear to people that I can show them anything. A lot of people don't realize as realtors, I can show them every house in town, not just the one they came in. I can show them all the houses. So I want to find out if that's not a fit. I want to see what else I can find for them. The other thing I like to do the day after is go through, typically, if somebody came by an open house and this was the neighborhood open house, they live in the neighborhood. So now I'm going to take their name, I'm going to search the tax records, I'm going to find out the house that they own, and then I'm going to put them in their address and attach it to the CRM, and I'm going to set them up on something like HomeBot so they start getting updates from me of what's selling in the neighborhood. Because I know that people want to know what their home is worth and they want to know what's selling around them. That's the number one place for people to, or number one thing that sellers want. They want to know what's their home worth and what are homes selling for around me. It's the number one thing. I was just looking, got a notification today from Redfin, which I use Redfin as an agent. Like a home in my neighborhood sold. And I was like, oh, that's pretty similar to mine. Mine's got a little better this, a little better that. Like, I want to see that. And I'm a realtor. Everybody wants to see that stuff. So make sure that you guys are following up on the open house as quickly as possible, not on Monday, the very next day. If you did the open house on Friday, you're following up on Saturday. If you did the open house on Saturday, you're following up on Sunday. Don't wait until Monday because a couple things are going to happen. One, you're going to forget, or two, by the time you followed up, they've already been to a bunch of other open houses. They found somebody they liked and they're now working with that agent, not you. So you got to really be on top of it and follow up with people sooner rather than later. All right. There's a ton of chats. So you want to fire away with some questions, guys? Or Tina, you can fire with the questions.
I'm trying to unmute myself. I was looking up a link. Some people said, where do you get the invitations? I mean, I just Googled cheap.
I'll send you our file. Yeah. Let me go grab one. I'll give you guys a visual.
Because you can pretty much get them anywhere. I mean, Canva to create an invitation is tough. You got to be pretty good at that kind of stuff. I would never be able to create a wedding invitation. I can't create anything like that. So I would find any company online, just Google it, look through, and Let's see, what advice do you have for introverts? We said that, Brett, drink a lot of wine. I love that. What else did we miss?
Drink, but don't get drunk.
Yeah, drink, but don't get drunk. Yeah, that's the last thing you want to do. I don't know if
Yeah.
we can drink here. Does anyone know? Unmute yourselves. Paul, Marty. We've never had, well, we do have alcohol in our private, broker opens. So I don't know if it's illegal. That would be
Yeah.
news to me.
But these are what the invitations look like.
Nice.
So it's like a little "you're invited," and it's like all fancy cursive and yeah.
I like
So
it.
nice cardstock, like really classy.
I like it. I like it. So anybody else unmute yourselves? I mean, obviously, if you did this kind of work for an open house, you can see that Kyle it's not about the open house. It's actually about so many other things. And it's about creating relationships. And I can see people, coming to the open, having 100, 150 people there, especially if you make a name for yourself. So if you pick 2 or 3 neighborhoods and you double down on them, you're going to own those neighborhoods very soon.
Yeah, and we've done like some of the food things we've done. Wine and cheese is kind of like the go-to. It's pretty easy. Just get a few bottles. Like now, my last one, I think we went through 11 bottles of wine. Like that's pretty rad.
Awesome.
So we do wine. We try to do like local stuff. So if there's like a local winery, we'll get wine from there. If there's a local cheese spot, we'll get it from there. Like we try to really tie into the community as much as we can. So wine and cheese, we've done like, and we blue collar neighborhoods, we've done like pizza and beer, and we just get the local pizza shop and the local brewery. We've done wings and beer. We've done sushi and sake on like our higher end ones, where we actually have like sushi chefs come to the house and roll sushi on site. So on our bigger ones, we'll do that. Tacos and margaritas, and we'll have a taco cart there, and we'll have a margarita machine there. We've done like our morning ones, we'll do like coffee and crepes we've done, and we set up like a full coffee bar with Bailey's, so you can make an Irish coffee. And we've done like donuts and mimosas. So
what about price points, Kyle? Because obviously I know some people are probably sitting here going, wait a minute, I just listed a $350,000 house. I don't have a budget to do this. So what is your opinion of budget based on the value that you're going to get in return?
Yeah, I mean, like pizza and beer or wine and cheese, you're spending like $200, right? $200. Like that's, I'll spend on any house, $100,000 house, I'll spend $200. Like that's
Absolutely.
nothing. Sushi and sake on that, we're spending like $2 or $3 grand, but that's going to be on a $2 or $3 million listing.
Yeah.
But people remember when you have sushi and sake, people remember that. Like that's
Absolutely.
super memorable experience.
Yeah, when they're tripping out the door. I just had sake last night. It was fantastic. 2 little shots and you're just happy go lucky. That's what Brett needs. Brett said, how do you ensure they write down accurate info? Are there certain times, days that work better than others for open houses? How would you strategize to ensure highest traffic? And I think I heard you say the times you don't do them on Fridays, depending on sunset.
Yeah. So as far as how do we get accurate info? I give them the iPad, and now they're typing the info in as opposed to writing it down on paper. And when they write it on paper, like half the time they just scribble some nonsense on there and you can't read what the hell they wrote. So I'm big on the iPad so that I get more accurate info. And then if like, let's say you have somebody come in who's got like both hands full of kids, I'll just ask them, oh, don't worry. Like, I'm not going to hand them the iPad and tell them to drop their kids. So I'll just say, oh, let me grab your info real quick. What's your name? And just start typing in. So we'll do that too sometimes, where we'll just put the info in for them. Like when somebody comes in, just ask them, all right, great. What's your name? And just like it's assumed, not even ask them to sign in. And Dan will tell people, he'll even say his script. I haven't used this yet. I don't know how it goes over, but it's worked for them. He'll even, when somebody comes in, like, oh, do you guys have a reservation for today? And the person will be like, huh? Oh, it's okay. I'll slide you guys in. What's your name?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
A reservation for our wine and cheese party.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
it.
I mean, it's good if they're with alcohol and beverage control. It's probably a good thing.
Absolutely.
And then for times, so when we do the neighbor ones, Friday night, Thursday night, or Friday night, and we usually try to do them as late as possible. So the later the better, but not past sunset. Once the sun sets, nobody shows up. So if sunset is 8:30, we'll go till like 8 because sunset it's dark at that point. So right now we're going, and you guys stay light later than we do on the East Coast. So, but I'm going 6 to 8 right now. and then I'll go 5 to 7 and then 4 to 6. Once it's dark before 6, then I go to Saturdays. When we do weekend open houses, we found that Saturday pretty much any time works. Sundays we avoid, especially you guys in the South. Sunday mornings suck. We always, if we're doing Sundays, we're doing Sunday afternoons.
Okay, I love it. Well, guys, I got a ton of information. I know I've heard you do this before, and I think it's fantastic. I think, it's doubling. This is something that is an art that obviously takes a lot of planning. You can't just overnight put this together. I mean, you really have to take your time to do it. But my God, every open house, if you did this, and even if you did 5 a year, this is huge. I mean, this would build your business so quickly. So
even if you only did 3 or 4 of these things, right? Like I didn't start doing all of these things overnight. Like it just started adding on. So if you're newer, like maybe you don't have the money to send the invitations, that's fine, right? Maybe you don't have a circle dance, that's fine. But you can get your ass out there and door knock.
Absolutely.
Right? Like you can still do something. So just add on, just layer this over time and work up to something like this. But don't listen to this or watch this and be like, oh, that's too much, there's no way I can do that. I didn't do all of it in the beginning. I just added each one maybe a little more and built up to it.
I love it. Kyle, you're amazing. Thank you. Everybody loved it. Unmute yourselves. Give Kyle a round of applause.
Thank
Say
you.
Woo!
Thank
I love
you.
that. And we're going to stick this in our group. So remember, guys, Kyle and Dan run our Monday mastermind. It always boggles my mind that we have 10,000 people in our Honey Badger free fast forward movement. We have 1,000 people in our group now, and 400 people on average are there. And I'm like, where is everybody? Where are the other 9,600 agents? But the top people that probably don't need to be there are there. And if you want to learn and grow, I would never miss a Monday at 1. I would never miss a Friday. I would learn, right? Learning is everything. So
if you're trying to get on Monday, you better get on early because we filled up by 10, your time 104 last week, and there's way more buzz going right now. So I have a feeling it'll be full before 1 o'clock.
I think so. I think you're going to have to get a different account. You're going to be like
1,000's
Tony
the
Robbins.
limit.
You're going to have all the screens behind you. Like, it's Kyle Whissel and Dan.
1,000's the limit where we can still see everybody's face. So we got to go to like the event option, which costs so much damn money, but it's all good.
But you make a lot of damn money, so it's fine. It's
Try.
fine. All right, guys. Thank you. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you Monday at 1. And get your butts there early because you're going to get locked out.
See ya.
Thanks, Kyle. Bye.